Boom, boom. We got the lighting figured out in the new studio, Matt. I'm gorgeous. I look less swollen, maybe a scotch, than yesterday. Happy, what is it, Tuesday? Happy Tuesday, Matt.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
I haven't had a taco in a long time, Bobby.
Oh, that's man, let's talk about risk. The risk of you not having tacos is considerable. But trading, stocks, bonds, ETFs, instruments, all have risk. The risk is yours. Read it, believe it. You can lose more than you invest. Matt, you shared this, and it's a great jumping off point for so many things. Manor Maven says, I just want things to go back to normal. We've all said it. Well, okay, just keep in mind that normal was us eating and drinking poison food and water, our kids being indoctrinated in school without our knowledge, us dutifully taking big pharma's pills, voting for what we believed were decent politicians being literal slaves to the tax man. No thanks, I'm not returning. The last 2 years have sucked, but they have also been very revealing. Man, I saw a stat that we are 6% of the planet's population here in the US of A. Yet we consume 65% of big pharma's offerings.
Yeah. Again,
I mean, what a
you gotta have a broken, corrupt healthcare system to even begin to implement that type of thing. So
I mean,
where else in the world has that availability? In Europe, they don't even use food coloring, let alone allow half these pills to be served up to their public.
And or let them advertise.
Right.
You know, it's so funny to listen to some doctors that are, so disgusted with pharma advertising, yet they're cheerleading left, right, and center some of the things that me and you have been questioning. I don't know. It's a complicated world we live in, but for sure, going back to normal is not going to be what happened. It's what happening. Not a chance.
We're not going back to it. No.
And mostly, Matt, because I get to do it every day, is let's do some breaking headlines. Breaking news. This was from January when it was first breaking that the elites across the world trust each other more and more. How's that working out? The bad news is the majority of the rest of us trust the elites less and less. And today we're going to go right to medical again, because Fauci says unlikely will eliminate COVID in the US due to animal reservoirs, evolution of diverse variants, and waning immunity from infections. And he had to say that, didn't he? From infections. Yeah, because that leaves the door open for big pharma and their waning offering. But gracefully, we got somebody like Dr. Mccullough out there, and I will say this is getting back to a normal that I believe in, and that is doctors and patients having the ability just to get together, talk about the symptoms, the prognosis, the available interactions, interdictions, whatever you want to talk about it. And then you're always free to go get a second opinion. Remember that, Matt? I know you've had some medical issues. That's the first thing they say. This is what I think. Go get a second opinion.
Yeah. Or a third, or a fourth.
Or a fourth. And this is going on right now, May 3rd and 4th. All these doctors coming together and talking about how do we treat COVID going forward, because the vaccines have obviously failed.
Yeah. And that to me, Bob, right there, a reason to get together with medical professionals. That's science right there. Sharing where you've had success, where you haven't had success, when it worked best, when it didn't work best, when it was like, maybe intervention is not needed. I mean, the one thing that people don't remember, intervention is not, our bodies are amazing vessels that we've been provided with. And we have a lot of what we need, primarily.
Back to interaction with a medical doctor. I used to get these eye infections, and like I'd call him, give me another script, my eye's infected. It's to the point where he finally says, no, I'm not writing you another one. Start doing hot compresses and get rid of this. You don't need an eye antibiotic every 3 months. That's not normal. Like, stop it.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's, and then I think people, to the point, I mean, Steve Kirsch wrote another article today basically saying, people, due to the fact that the vaccines don't work, they don't prevent transmission, they don't prevent anything, more and more people are going to pass, because as this test of these medicines is continued to roll out, the test is proven to fail. So, I mean, you'd have to be, you literally have to be insane, I think, right now to not see all that. Jimmy Kimmel came down today with COVID. His kid brought it home. I told him not to bring it home. He said he brought it home. So
the kid
that was actually a pretty funny joke. Yeah. But it's just like, but really, but he has to put out there, but I'm double boosted, but we're canceling the show for a while. Like, you used to be funny, Jimmy Kimmel, when you were on the Man Show. Now you're just you're a paid tout. You're Stephen Colbert, same thing. Like, I used to think he was hilarious. Now I cringe. Rogan was talking about it, and I've thought that for the last 3 years. I can't stand the guy, and I used to like him.
Back to a thing that we were talking pre. I saw a tweet by Glenn Greenwald, and he shared a video of 2013, him in front of the Yale, doing a chat in front of the Yale Law School. And he talked about the importance of an adversarial press. Mm-hmm. And man, have we fallen. And in fact, I said Trevor Noah in the correspondence dinner called everybody in that room out. That if we're not an adversarial press, we can just throw the whole idea out the window. The whole idea of personal liberty, personal responsibility. Like, where does all this come from if there isn't somebody busting your balls? It's an impossible thing to have this.
And they only bust balls on one side of the table. So, like, to your point, it is purely adversarial. Again, you are. If that's all you consume is MSNBC and CNN, you're blind because you're not seeing the story.
All right, man. We always talk about all of these things lead to price discovery. And so let's get to, especially around the jabs. We haven't covered Pfizer or Moderna in a while.
Well, that's really because there's nothing to cover. There's nothing new. And I think what you're seeing is the slow death. And again, I do believe, I hold out faith that this company is going to become the biggest fraud that has ever been in mankind. Moderna, I believe it's worse than Enron, and I believe it was known, and I believe class action suits are out there, and they're starting and they're rolling, and this is going to be the smart lawyers will protect people regardless of the indemnification that they provided for themselves through the illegality of forcing this stuff down people's throats when it's still not even FDA approved. I mean, an EU emergency use does not mean it has been approved. I'm so sick of talking to people about that. It's like, you're taking a test medicine. Clinically, it has not been, we were talking about this before. Like, you want to get a shingles vaccine? Well, they've done studies for 7-8 years, right? Before they started pushing it to people.
It was a full, I think, 4 or 5 year intro trial.
And that's how it should be. That's how this should have been. And we would have proven this in the first month. All the numbers that, again, Pfizer and Moderna held back showed all this already, and it's all coming out. So nothing has changed. Moderna low 122, it's trading 145, up another 3.5 today. This chart is ugly. Again, it's going down here. It's going to $75, and then it's going to go to zero when all these cases start hitting. That's going to be, it's Purdue Pharma 10 years before Purdue Pharma. That's all it is. It's the same stuff. Like, these guys are crooks. They're crooks. And Pfizer, we know, has a history of not doing the right thing, and they pay the fines and they go on to the next scam. And so, again, these charts aren't pretty, and they're right-sided to me right now. The low, again, the COVID low 26 on Pfizer went up to 62, currently trading at 49. And value is back here at 36. We will go back to that level.
Not only that, I mean, from Stottlemyre's work, obviously, if it gets into that value range and spends some time, it's got a 80% chance to cover 80% of that value range. So you're right.
Yeah.
The point of control is just one stopping point before,
yeah.
And that is, by the way, a perfect profile. Look how
Yeah.
perfect that bell curve is.
Well, which makes sense. I mean, that stock's been, it's a publicly traded and been around forever and ever. So I'm trying to bring it back up here again. But yeah, it should be. It's usually a pretty balanced name, so it should come back to that level, right? I mean, if this is just an 89-minute, we basically, this is an anomaly. The COVID anomaly, the last 2 years has been an anomaly for this stock, and I don't see why we can't go back to being balanced, and that's going to be somewhere down in the low 30s. Again, why wouldn't we test the lows of the COVID lows again? 26.53. Why wouldn't we?
Keep saying it, Matt. Keep saying it.
Well, just like I had us talk the dollar for the last year and a half, it's going to go to 103. It's going to go to 104. I mean, it's going to go to 120. I mean, I'm not saying it. The chart's saying it. It's not. It's I'm just telling you what the price says. So it's real simple. I just wanted to look at let's look at AstraZeneca and JNJ, because we haven't talked about those in a long time. And they pulled their drug right away because it was failing, right? And look at, interestingly enough, out of all these charts, Astra's probably the best. So you do the right thing.
You pull your test med when it doesn't test out so well.
Right. You do the right thing, and it looks like you benefit from that and the rest of your overall product line. JNJ, again, the much bigger company, conglomerate, et cetera. They're in medical devices, $500 billion market cap. Same story, right? They stopped doing the JNJ jab was probably the most effective. And then that, I think, I honestly, I think these companies are a little bit, that they recognize the risk. They recognize the risk, and they just said, we don't want to be involved with that. Right. I mean, I think that's what this tells me. And because they know what's going to come in the future. These guys aren't dumb. They know the ramifications of doing these types of things. And then finally, the Pfizer BioNTech, again, if you want to see what's happening, this was a new name. This came out, 19 publicly just before COVID, right? Just in time. You could have bought that when that came public at $11-12. You had a 50 bagger, for God's sake. And, that's crazy to me. And look at this, though. It's in the value zone again, Bob. And, from this is the, history of this name. And why wouldn't it trade back to the, low 30s? Why wouldn't it trade back there? And we're at 148 right now.
Beautiful analysis as usual. Usually. All right, Matt. We got a Fed day tomorrow. Definitely the Fed. We were talking about this on the way in. I mean, the Fed's got a dual mandate. All right. Not like me and you going out for beers, a real mandate, inflation and full unemployment. And inflation has always been the greater of the two.
Full employment, you mean?
Full employment and fighting inflation.
Yeah.
And it seems to me they're a little bit behind the curve here.
They're failing in both of them as usual, which is, again, they're not even really addressing. I wanted to throw this up because you and I talked about it before. Private sector job openings are hitting all-time highs, right? So there is no unemployment problem. There is no unemployment. There's jobs, right? The problem now is, and again, the thing that's interesting about this headline, quits. I didn't even know this was a tracked number, but
I quit every day.
but it's interesting. Private sector quits. I mean, look at this chart, Bob. And again, this down here. I mean, this is, and it's across all sectors. So and I don't know whether to believe, is this the elites winning because they're getting people to quit their jobs because they're getting government money and they're fine with whatever the government gives them. Basically, people are lazy. They're comfortable with a UBI of 50, 60 grand. Maybe that's what that means. I don't, to me, this one scares me. This one really does scare me, the people quitting. Like I say this all the time. I mean, what are you doing with you? Are you just playing Fortnite all day? I don't know. I don't know.
And so here's my thought. We got the Fed tomorrow. We got a little rally back here in the indexes. Somebody tweeted out, I think it was Endless Capital, like, is there any metric that the Fed would throttle a 0.25 versus a 0.5 versus a 0.75 or a full point? Like if the market was on its ass going into this meeting, would that figure in their metric? I mean, I don't think it should. They got to get ahead of this inflation. And the market, by the way, on the long end is taking care of it. Like the market's functioning correctly on the long end. It's the short end. And we talked about it yesterday. I mean, next December's Eurodollars are at 96.50. That's a 3.5% short-term rate. I mean, the market is actually saying to the Fed, get on the frickin' horse.
Yeah, again, we talked about, the 10-year was on its way to 3. It hit it finally yesterday. And don't forget the high from 18 was 33.25. So, I think we have to at least bang against that. I would think that's got to be run into right before. And then if we can get over that, that can continue. But the thing to consider again is this move, we've doubled, we went from 1.5 to 3 in about 6 weeks. That's pretty significant. This move here was about the same. And so we've kind of, so to your question, this was not as steep, but it did double in a little longer time. That was July of 16 to November of 18. So that took almost 2.5 years, right? This move, Bob, happened in 6 weeks. Just to throw that out there again. So think about that.
And again, that's more of a market functioning market. It's not the Fed saying this is what the 10-year rate is, but setting it.
You start exactly and let the market, free markets. I don't believe in Keynesian economics. I never have. I don't want somebody in there dangling and missing and messing around with it. Right. I just don't. So, but if we can get above that 3.2, why wouldn't we go back to 4, 5, 6? Why wouldn't we? I mean, we've got a cool. I mean, gosh, you look at the housing around here. Shit shacks are 1.3 million for 1,200 square feet today.
Hey man, speaking of that, there's I didn't even know it was its own lot, but apparently it is right in the neighborhood here. It is literally 1890s shack. I mean, I swear to God, it's an 18. I don't even know if there's plumbing in it, and they want 450,000. And they actually have the balls to put the picture. I mean, just say it's vacant land, right?
Right. You're going to knock it down.
Why do you have the 1890s shack pictures in the?
Well, maybe it's historically relevant, so that's probably why.
Oh, that's for sure what would happen to me. I would buy it and knock it down, and then the Bend City Council.
They'd go, you can't do that. It's historical. Yeah.
That was Trapper John's trapping house. Good luck. Open a fucking museum, asshole.
Exactly. And it I don't know, dude. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, the Fed really hasn't even done anything. So they've just talked and they've continued to participate in open market activities. So, it's just, one thing I was thinking about, I wanted to see kind of how the market reacted to Berkshire today. They had their earnings and because it had been selling off finally for, before the earnings, it sold off a little bit. But again, this is a long-term chart. This is the COVID low. I mean, even Berkshire is 2.5x, and you're talking almost it's 715 billion market cap today. They did have their earnings. So here were their numbers. They were, they beat reported. They had a little, they had about a half whatever that is, 500 million billion more in earnings, and their revenues were 70.8 versus an estimate of 73. So they beat on both sides. And the stock's up 1.5%. So the stock is behaving favorably after selling off into the earnings. Again, this is kind of what you're seeing. Things that are selling off, like there's a lot of these names that are coming out. Like Airbnb has been selling off the last few days with the NASDAQ, and they have earnings at after the market today. And I think like if I'm a speculative trade here, and you put a gun to my head, I'd say buy, sell, or hold. I'd say buy. I'd say buy this earnings for just because of where the market is. And that's again at the close today. So we'll see.
So you're actually hoping for shitty earnings, a puke, and then you buy it.
No, I'm saying that it's been going down. We went from 178 down to 142. As long as we hold 131 on an open market, it's probably worth a buy.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, I'd be looking at that level, 131. Sure, if I can get that price, I'd probably say, I'd be a buyer there. But I'm saying you might even have to buy some calls to be involved before the earnings, just in case it runs against you. So does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
all right.
So we still have a lot of these earnings coming out. And again, kind of what you're seeing is you're seeing a fade of whatever the direction was, whether you're going down or going up, the earnings have typically kind of done the reverse lately. So that seems to be kind of the way the market is behaving and reacting. Again, I don't know. I just don't see great things continuing, in these earnings. But that being said, again, we got the Fed meeting tomorrow. We have the usual suspects. We got the gaming of the Fed, and that's not a game I like to play personally. And so I tend to, like I told you, I made my money this morning by 7:30, and I'm probably going to be stepping away from the screens until, really outside of doing the show, watching, occasionally. I got better things to do, because look at this market. I mean, look at the NASDAQ. It's just right where it's just trading right there all day.
Flying around.
Above it, below it, below it, above it, below it, above it, below it. The bonds, had moved to another new high today, and they're up, it's a solid $2. So the bonds are telling you that interest rates are going lower into the Fed meeting tomorrow, right? So they're saying that, but we know it, the bonds are pretty oversold and could get a rally here too. So, but I want to see how it reacts. My gut is I think everybody's expecting just a rally again to come pre-Fed, post-Fed, both. They're always wanting rallies with the Fed. And I kind of think, we may have a rally. I don't know. The first move is usually the false move. So we'll see what we do tomorrow after the announcement on 11:15.
Right on.
And, that first move, if we go up again, I'd probably be a seller by the end of the day tomorrow.
All right. Fantastic.
If we go down initially tomorrow, I might be a buyer, down near lows or something like that, if they could get down there. But again, I still think we're going down to, 11,000. So whether it's now or we got to rally first until we do that, I'm fine with either one. Just, we need to get through this period. And once we get through this, we don't have another Fed meeting until right before 4th of July again. So then we can go back to kind of normal trading again. The Fed is just, it stops everything. It's a pause for free markets. And that's why, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of them always being in the middle, the monkey in the middle of everything. Right.
Right on. All right, fantastic. Anything, Lee? Trapping beaver. I'm not sure. There's beavers here in the Deschutes River for sure.
I see them every day. I see them every day when I'm walking Rudy. Rudy wants to go out and swim with them. Beavers, weasels.
We got here in the yard, to my dismay, is a Washington ground squirrel. Let me tell you what it is. It's on the endangered list because anybody that ever had one in their yard and watched the destruction they do to their fauna,
shot him.
Would want to shoot him. He's so beautiful. He's a beautiful rodent. He's much more pleasing on the eye than your average alley rat. Is a gorgeous, but man, he does all the tulips. Just eats the flower.
The yummy part.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? Because they're right there for him. And he sits back and rubs his.
It's from Washington too, so
Washington.
The Washington ground squirrel. I want a bounty on the one in my yard anyway. My hands are tied though, endangered. It's endangered. All right, that's all we got.
All right,
Matt, thank you so much. Please join us at marketvitals.io. Please share, retweet, plagiarize the broadcast far and wide. The shadow bans continue. So honestly, I'd really appreciate a retweet. If you enjoyed, even if you didn't enjoy, you can say, hey, check out these two schmoes and tell me they're not the biggest schmoes you've ever known. I'll take that. I'll take that too. All right, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.